Following breaking news out of Gaza this morning, where famine has now been declared in Gaza City for the...
We begin tonight with the rare threat of nuclear escalation between two superpowers.
U.S. intelligence believes Iran is preparing a major attack.
World War III has officially begun as the country...
Inflation worse than expected, and as Americans well know, it remains painfully high across...
What if the war you see on the news is just a reflection of the battle inside you? In a time when the world is burning and society feels more divided than ever, the real test isn't out there. It's within. Fear, anger, helplessness. These emotions are not weaknesses. They're signals, invitations to grow stronger. The wise don't run from the chaos. They extract wisdom from it. What can war teach those who are willing to look inward? War has always been one of humanity's most jarring mirrors. When we look at a battlefield, especially one as devastating and emotionally charged as Gaza, we're not just seeing bombs, rubble, and sorrow. We're seeing a reflection of something far closer than we'd like to admit. Not something foreign or far away, but something living within our own chest. Because every war out there is a metaphor for a battle in here. Every explosion outside echoes a disturbance inside. Every scream heard in the world stirs a frequency in our nervous system. For the wise, war is never just political. It's psychological, it's spiritual, it's personal. And this is where the journey begins. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But to truly understand that, we must first turn inward, toward the battlefield within. Inside each of us, there is a war between clarity and confusion, between anger and compassion, between impulse and discipline. And when the world shakes with conflict, that inner war is stirred. It's easy to look outward and point fingers. It's harder, much harder, to sit in silence and look into your own chaos. But that's where the real transformation begins. When we feel overwhelmed by the suffering we see in the world, the emotions that rise, grief, rage, helplessness, judgment, aren't created by the news. They're awakened by it. The seed of that emotion was already there. The war only watered it. The Stoics taught us not to control the world, but to control ourselves. To observe what's outside and ask, what in me is being triggered right now? Not to suppress emotion, but to examine it. To harness it, because in the space between stimulus and response lies a power deeper than any weapon ever forged. Epictetus said, "It is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them." That's the key. The war outside is real. The tragedy is real. But how we relate to it, that is ours to master. The battlefield within is not a metaphor of avoidance, it's a call to arms. Not to ignore what's happening, but to rise as an inner soldier, one who can hold grief without being destroyed by it, who can feel anger without being controlled by it, who can see injustice and still choose clarity over chaos. The metaphysical lens takes this even deeper. Reality vibrates. Energy moves in frequencies. War is one of the lowest. Destruction, domination, fear, these are heavy, dense energies. If you allow your thoughts and emotions to match that frequency, you don't just observe the war, you absorb it. You become a part of it energetically. But the human soul is not a passive vessel. It is a transmitter. You can either tune in to the chaos or transmute it. This is not spiritual bypassing. It is spiritual alchemy. We are energetic beings. If you carry unresolved rage, then a war in the world becomes a catalyst for its eruption. If you carry judgment, conflict amplifies your sense of separation. But if you carry stillness, you become a lighthouse, not untouched by the storm, but rooted within it. The battlefield within is the terrain of self-mastery. When the external world descends into confusion, your duty is to rise into clarity. That doesn't mean you look away from suffering, it means you don't let it blur your perception. The clearer your vision, the greater your impact. Lao Tzu said, He who conquers others is strong. He who conquers himself is mighty. The self-conquest begins when we stop outsourcing responsibility for our inner state. Yes, atrocities exist. Yes, oppression exists. But unless you bring your nervous system under command, you are just another casualty of psychic war. You cannot liberate the world if you are enslaved by your own mind. And that's the paradox. When you fight the war within, with integrity, with presence, with discipline, you actually become more capable of addressing the war outside. Because your actions are no longer reactive. They're intentional. They're not driven by wounded ego, but by aligned awareness. This is what the Stoics trained for. This is what the metaphysicians whispered about. Inner order, spiritual power, soul sovereignty. To master the battlefield within is to reprogram your relationship to everything. You stop being a sponge for suffering and become a prism of peace. You stop leaking energy into rage and start channeling it into wisdom. You stop reacting from fear and begin responding from essence. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate, said Carl Jung. The battlefield within is not just about emotions, it's about shadows. Those hidden pieces of yourself you've denied, rejected, ignored. War outside reveals the war inside. And the war inside reveals the parts of you you've yet to love. That rage you feel when you see injustice. Is it rooted in care or in unresolved pain? That judgment you hurl at the other side, does it come from discernment or from your own need to feel righteous? That despair you feel watching the news, does it paralyze you or does it call you to cultivate strength? These are not easy questions, but the inner soldier asks them anyway, because the inner soldier knows peace is not passive. It's powerful. To hold peace in a world of chaos is to hold the sword of transformation. When the battlefield is burning, you don't run, you breathe. When fear rises, you don't obey, you observe. When anger calls for vengeance, you don't react, you refine. This is how we win the war within. Through discipline, through daily practice, through vigilance of thought, through sovereignty of emotion, through presence. When you hear of war, let it awaken you. Let it show you what you still carry. Let it reveal the places where your heart still closes. Let it call you, not into more fear, but into deeper fortitude. Let it call you to fast from distraction. Let it call you to put down the weapons of blame and pick up the tools of self-inquiry. Let it call you to become a sanctuary in the storm. Because in times like these, clarity is rebellion, stillness is resistance, and presence is power. If you truly want to make a difference in the world, you must start with your frequency. Raise it, protect it, refine it. This is not a selfish act. This is the foundation of leadership. The battlefield within is sacred ground. Your anger is sacred. Your grief is sacred. But they are not meant to be worshipped. They are meant to be understood, transcended, transformed. You were not born to mirror the chaos of the world. You were born to alchemize it. This is not idealism, it is responsibility. Your nervous system influences others. Your energy shifts rooms. Your stillness plants seeds in chaos. The world doesn't need more reactors. It needs more radiators. Beings who emanate peace not because they're naive, but because they've gone to war within themselves and returned victorious. The wise do not deny the existence of evil. They simply refuse to become it. The wise do not pretend suffering isn't real. They simply refuse to be consumed by it. The wise feel deeply, but they act wisely. So let the war you witness in the world become fuel for inner refinement. Turn off the noise. Sit with your emotions. Breathe deeper than your thoughts. Fast from rage. Question your judgments. Pray not for sides to win, but for hearts to awaken. Do the metaphysical work. Cleanse your frequency. Charge your aura with presence, not panic. Every time you choose stillness over reaction, you win a battle that the world cannot see. but that ripples into everything. Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." The battlefield within is not a punishment. It's a portal. Every judgment you dissolve becomes space for compassion. Every fear you release becomes room for courage. Every shadow you integrate becomes light in your leadership. So when the world is burning, don't just post about it. Don't just mourn it. Don't just curse it. Transcend it. Not in arrogance, not in avoidance, but in sacred responsibility. Rise, refine, respond. Because while bombs may fall outside, your power is born in the silence within. And in that silence, you do not run from war, you end it. By ending it in yourself. That's how we build a better world. One soldier of peace at a time. Remember this, fear is not the enemy. It is the messenger. When war erupts in the world, when chaos shakes the earth and uncertainty pierces the air, it doesn't just rattle governments or economies. It rattles something ancient in us. The root chakra awakens. The survival center activates. The illusion of control dissolves. And suddenly, we remember that nothing is guaranteed. Not time, not safety, not tomorrow. This is fear doing its sacred job. Because fear, at its essence, is a spiritual alarm clock. It rings not to torment us, but to awaken us. To call us out of the trance of routine, the slumber of comfort, and the illusion of permanence. When we feel fear, we are being invited to rise. The Stoics understood this deeply. They did not romanticize fear, nor did they run from it. They stared it in the face and asked, "What are you here to teach me?" Seneca wrote, "He who fears death will never do anything worth of a man who is alive." To fear death is to fear life itself, because death is not the opposite of life. It is the constant companion of it. It is the reminder that every breath counts, that every word echoes, that every moment is sacred because it is temporary. Fear, when held in awareness, becomes a compass pointing to our growth. The emotion that once shrank us becomes the very fuel that expands us. Not by running from it, but by walking toward it with presence. War reveals this like nothing else. In war, the veil between life and death is thin. The future is uncertain. Comfort is shattered. What remains is the raw now. And fear surges like a wave. But in that wave is a lesson. You were never meant to be numb. You were meant to be awake. The metaphysical view sees fear as energy. Heavy? Yes. Sticky? Yes. But energy nonetheless. And what is energy? Movement, possibility, alchemy waiting to happen. When you freeze in fear, you let it possess you. When you avoid fear, you let it haunt you. But when you face it, when you breathe into it, feel it without flinching and inquire into its roots, you reclaim your power. The battlefield outside reflects the battlefield within. And when war stirs fear in your body, the wise don't just scroll and scream. They sit and listen. Why am I afraid? What does this tell me about where I feel unprepared, unanchored, unrooted? Fear shows you your spiritual edge, the place where your faith falters, the place where your illusion of control dissolves. And that edge is sacred, because beyond it lies transformation. The ancient mystics never demonized fear. They danced with it. They knew that fear is the threshold guardian of every higher state. You want to evolve? You want to grow? You want to walk in peace while the world burns? Then learn how to hold fear without collapsing. You cannot kill fear, but you can purify it. You do this not by pretending it's not there, not by distracting yourself, not by numbing with information or substances or denial. You do it by bringing presence into the very places fear lives. The body, the breath. The thought loops that spiral when the unknown rises. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Fear is often not about what's happening. It's about what we believe it means. The stories we attach, the futures we project, the losses we imagine. And when we pause long enough to see the story, we gain the ability to rewrite it. In metaphysical terms, fear is a dense frequency. It vibrates low, close to the material plane. It contracts. But contraction is not bad. It is the necessary precursor to expansion. Like a muscle before it strengthens. Like the breath before it exhales. When fear shows up, it's not a sign of failure. It's a sign of potential. Because you only fear what you care about. You only fear what touches something real in you. The question is not, how do I get rid of fear? The question is, how do I walk with fear and still choose truth? Imagine fear as a bell ringing in your soul. It says, wake up. You've been asleep. You've been coasting. You've been acting like time is infinite, like comfort is promised, like the world owes you peace. But the bell tolls, and in that sound, you are summoned to presence, to priority, to purpose. Fear exposes what matters. You don't fear the meaningless. You fear losing what you love. You fear being unprepared. You fear being powerless. And this reveals the work. Because the path of wisdom is not to avoid fear. It is to become so rooted in presence that fear loses its grip. You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire, Seneca observed. We fear the end, yet we desire endlessly. We worry about time running out, but waste it like it's infinite. Fear, when honored, corrects this. It centers us. It wakes us. It sharpens us. The warrior doesn't seek battle, but when it comes, they do not flinch. Why? Because they have prepared within. The battle already happened in the quiet mornings, the silent meditations, the disciplined mind. So when external chaos rises, they are already anchored. This is the invitation of fear, to become a spiritual warrior, to breathe deeper when the world panics, to respond rather than react, to transmute density into depth. This doesn't mean you won't feel afraid. It means you know what to do when fear arrives. You greet it like an old friend. You let it tell its story. You thank it for its message. And then you move with clarity, not with panic. The Buddha taught that fear arises from attachment. We fear losing what we cling to. But if we loosen our grip, not detach with coldness, but soften with awareness, we create space. And in that space, wisdom can enter. Fear is a teacher of impermanence. It says, you cannot hold on to anything forever. Not your breath, not your body, not the people you love. So love deeply. Act with intention. Let go with grace. The metaphysical path sees every fear as an invitation into expansion. Fear of death becomes a reminder to live fully. Fear of rejection becomes a call to self-acceptance. Fear of chaos becomes a test of your internal order. Fear is like a flame. Left unchecked, it burns everything. But channeled, it lights the way. You can turn fear into fuel, into focus, into spiritual fire. But you must meet it directly. You must build a relationship with it. You must become intimate with your triggers, not to indulge them, but to transcend them. War teaches this better than anything. You can't outrun mortality. You can't control the timeline. You can't shield yourself from all harm. But you can walk through fire with a steady breath. You can let fear sculpt you instead of shatter you. You can let fear illuminate your calling instead of dim your soul. You can become fearless, not by having no fear, but by no longer being ruled by it. The Stoics practice this through premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. They would imagine loss, death, pain, not to suffer prematurely, but to desensitize the shock, to rehearse the unknown, to meet fear ahead of time so that when it arrived, they were already prepared. Metaphysically, this is vibrational readiness. You become a frequency match for courage, for presence, for wisdom. And when the fear comes, you don't fall, you rise. Your aura doesn't collapse, it expands. Your mind doesn't race, it sharpens. Your spirit doesn't hide, it shines. You were not born to be fearless. You were born to be brave. And bravery means feeling the fear, hearing its message, and still choosing to walk forward. This is the path of the awakened soul. To use fear as a teacher, not a jailer. To meet the unknown, not with paralysis, but with peace. To be shaken and still choose stillness. You may not control what the world does, but you control how you meet it. And fear, when met with awareness, becomes a sacred ally. So the next time fear knocks, don't slam the door. Open it, listen, learn, and then walk through it like a soldier of spirit. Because you were not made to live numb. You were made to live awake. And fear, when understood, is just the sound of your soul's alarm clock ringing to remind you, it's time to rise. The events of this world may anger you, but anger is not weakness. It is not poison. It is power, raw, untamed, and sacred. In the face of injustice, violence, or destruction, anger is often the first emotion to rise. It charges the blood. It ignites the nervous system. It clenches the jaw, quickens the breath, and sharpens the voice. But for the undisciplined mind, that anger becomes a wildfire, destroying whatever it touches. It lashes out or turns inward, burning bridges, wounding the innocent, and tearing apart the self. But what if anger wasn't the enemy? What if it was the beginning of something higher? The Stoics understood that we are not to be ruled by emotions, but neither are we to erase them. Emotions are part of being human. They are signals, messengers from the soul. And anger, when properly understood, is one of the clearest signals we have. Marcus Aurelius warned, how much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it. He wasn't condemning anger. He was pointing to the danger of unexamined, unrefined anger. Anger that leads rather than serves. Because there are two types of anger. The first is reactive, chaotic, impulsive. It feels good in the moment but leaves destruction in its wake. The second is intentional, focused, alchemized. It doesn't blind, it reveals. It doesn't attack, it protects. It doesn't consume, it creates. This is the art of transmutation. In metaphysics, we learn that energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed. And anger, being a dense and potent form of energy, holds immense potential. The question is not, how do I get rid of my anger, but rather, what can I turn it into? A disciplined soul turns anger into discipline. A clear mind turns anger into strategy. A devoted heart turns anger into prayer. An awakened spirit turns anger into protection, not from fear, but from love. This is the spiritual path, not denial, but refinement. When you witness suffering in the world, when you hear of violence, when you see oppression unfold, your anger is not the problem. Your reaction to it is. Anger becomes dangerous only when it becomes directionless. The wise do not suppress their anger. They observe it. They sit with it. They learn its language. And then they decide how to use it. Seneca wrote, "No plague has cost the human race more. Anger has destroyed nations, cities, and families." And yet, the absence of anger is not peace. It is passivity. The goal is not to kill the fire, but to master the forge. Think of anger as fire. Uncontrolled, it devours. But mastered, it cooks, it warms, it builds. The alchemist within you is called to take that fire and turn it into something useful. To let anger burn through illusion, but not through people. To let it awaken your purpose, not sabotage your soul. This is why war, both external and internal, becomes a training ground. In war, there are infinite reasons to be angry, but only the wise know how to hold the sword without letting it slip. Anger must not lead the charge. It must be harnessed, like a wild horse that can trample or carry you, depending on your skill. You have to become the rider, not the beast. This is where discipline enters. Discipline turns rage into focus. It turns reaction into response. It turns the heat of injustice into the fuel of justice. This is not a soft teaching. This is a call to arms, arms of self-mastery. When you see something wrong in the world and you feel your chest tighten, your blood heat, your vision narrow, pause. You've just been given energy. Don't waste it. Anger is sacred fuel, and like jet fuel, it can lift or explode depending on the container. Let your container be forged by wisdom. Don't numb your anger. That only buries it where it festers. Don't explode your anger. That only spreads the wound. Instead, channel it, write with it, build with it, protect with it, pray with it, stand for something with it. This is the Stoic art. Emotion in service of virtue, anger in service of justice, fire in service of creation. We often hear that anger clouds the mind, but the trained mind uses anger to clarify what truly matters. If you are enraged, good. That means your heart is still alive. But now ask yourself, what will you do with that rage? Will you vent it? Or will you craft with it? Will you curse the darkness? Or will you use that fire to light a torch? Metaphysically, anger carries the vibration of urgency. It says, something must change. But what must change is not always outside. Often it is you. Anger shows you your boundaries. It shows you your values. It shows you where you've been silent for too long. But if you let it rule you, you betray the very principles you seek to defend. You cannot destroy darkness with more darkness, but you can confront it with light born from sacred fire. This is what warriors of spirit learn. They don't fear anger. They don't worship it. They transmute it. They use it to rise earlier, train harder, speak clearer, love deeper. They know that anger is not to be spilled carelessly, but aimed precisely. Not as a weapon of ego, but as a tool of truth. When you feel anger, see it as a signal. It says, wake up, pay attention, act with intention. But never forget that your strength lies not in your reaction, but in your restraint. A sword drawn in anger cuts both ways, but a sword wielded with awareness becomes an instrument of divine precision. This is what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Don't become what you despise, transcend it, not through avoidance but through alchemy. Transmutation is not denial. It is transformation. It is the spiritual act of taking what is heavy and turning it into what is holy. Taking what is reactive and making it responsive. Taking what is raw and making it refined. The fire inside you is not your downfall. It is your destiny if you learn how to carry it. So the next time you feel anger surge, don't shame it. Thank it. Then ask it, where would you have me act? What must be protected? What must be built? What must be changed? And then move, not with fury, but with clarity. Not with destruction, but with design. Because anger in the hands of the wise is not chaos. It is power, channeled, tempered, and aimed. Become that kind of warrior. Become the one who feels deeply and responds wisely. Become the one who doesn't explode or suppress, but who refines. Let the fire in you be sacred. Let your anger become a sword, but hold that sword with a steady hand. And walk through this world not ruled by rage, but lit by purpose. In times of war, when the world trembles with violence and voices scream from every corner, detachment can be misunderstood. It's easy to assume that those who do not react to every headline, every image, every opinion must be numb, cold, uncaring. But that assumption misses the essence of what true detachment is. Detachment is not apathy. It is clarity. It is the refusal to be controlled by every emotional ripple in the collective ocean. It is the decision to stand in stillness while the world spins in chaos. It is not about turning away. It is about turning inward, so that when you face the world, you do so with grounded power instead of reactive panic. The Stoics never told us to stop feeling. They told us to stop being ruled by our feelings. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." And this is the embodiment. to see suffering without drowning in it, to stay informed without becoming inflamed, to walk through a burning world with calm footsteps, not because you don't care, but because you care so deeply that you know how precious your energy is. Detachment is energy management. It's spiritual hygiene. It's metaphysical self-respect. From the metaphysical perspective, your energy field is sacred. It is both your vessel and your transmission. When you constantly entangle your emotional system with the collective pain of the world, without anchoring, without boundaries, you weaken your light. You lose clarity, you lose coherence, you lose the ability to serve. You cannot pour light into a dark world if you've allowed the darkness to flood your system. And yet, this is not an excuse to look away. The wise do not ignore suffering. They simply don't mirror it. They don't collapse under it. They don't amplify it with reaction. They transform it through presence. Detachment is not passive. It is deeply active. It requires vigilance, awareness, and radical responsibility for your state of being. To detach means to cut the energetic cords that siphon your power. To detach means to observe the noise without being swallowed by it. To detach means to choose peace, not as an escape, but as a strategy. In a world that profits from panic, your inner stillness is a threat. It's revolutionary. Because if you cannot be provoked, you cannot be controlled. If you are not emotionally hijacked by every headline, you are free. And only the free can liberate others. This is not a rejection of empathy. This is the refinement of it. The wise feel deeply, but they do not fuse emotionally with every wound they see. They recognize that to truly serve the world, they must remain centered in themselves. Imagine a surgeon in the operating room. If they weep every time they see blood, they cannot perform the procedure. Detachment, in this sense, is professionalism of the soul. It says, I will not deny what I feel, but I will feel it through the lens of purpose. I will grieve, but I will not spiral. I will care, but I will not collapse. I will act, but I will not be consumed. This is the discipline of detachment. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is not a call to coldness. It is a call to sovereignty. Because if your nervous system is hijacked by the world, then you are no longer a creator. You are a reactor. And a soul that only reacts becomes a pawn in a game they don't control. Detachment protects you from that. It doesn't close your heart. It anchors it. It doesn't stop your compassion. It deepens it. But it requires practice. And that practice begins with awareness. Limit how often you engage with the news. You are not meant to consume trauma 24 hours a day. You are not more useful because you are more informed. You are more useful when you are more aligned. Start your day with breathwork or silent prayer. Don't begin in chaos. Begin in calm. Anchor your frequency before the world tries to program it for you. When emotions rise, name them. Don't shame them. Don't bury them. Simply say, I see you, and then breathe. Let the emotion pass like weather. Observe what it reveals. What triggered it? What story did it awaken? Where does your energy leak? This is the inner work. This is detachment in action. Practice compassion without emotional fusion. You can say, I care deeply, without saying, I must feel everyone's pain as if it's my own. That's not compassion. That's enmeshment. And enmeshment helps no one. A lighthouse does not run into the ocean to save ships. It stands firm on the shore and offers its light. Be that. Create pockets of stillness in your day. This is not luxury. It is necessity. Silence recalibrates. Stillness detoxes. Presence sharpens. In the battlefield of the mind, your stillness is armor. If you do not create space to reset your nervous system, the world will use you as a battery. You were not born for that. You were born to emit, not absorb. To create, not conform. To illuminate, not imitate. When war fills the air and rage floods the feed, and sorrow drips from every screen, ask yourself, who am I in this moment? Am I a mirror of the world's chaos? Or am I a channel for something higher? Am I echoing the pain or transmuting it? The choice is daily, hourly, even moment to moment. And the stakes are high, because every time you choose detachment over dysfunction, you raise the frequency of the collective. Every time you choose peace over panic, you make it easier for others to do the same. This is not spiritual bypassing. This is spiritual leadership. It is not avoidance. It is alignment. It is not numbness. It is mastery. Detach, not from care, but from chaos. Detach, not from humanity, but from hysteria. Detach, not from love, but from fear. And watch how your present changes the room. Watch how your peace becomes medicine. Watch how your stillness opens doors that anger never could. The world does not need more noise. It needs examples of anchored being. It needs souls who are not hooked by algorithms, hearts who are not enslaved by outrage, minds who are not intoxicated by reaction. You can be that soul. You can walk through the fire and not be burned. You can witness the suffering and not lose your light. But only if you choose detachment. Only if you choose to protect your peace like the sacred temple it is. Detach, not because you don't care. Detach because you do. And because you know that your clearest action will never come from panic. Your most powerful voice will never rise from frenzy. Your highest impact will never be born from rage. It will come from your stillness. It will come from your alignment. It will come from the quiet power of a soul that is present, but not possessed by the world. This is the art. This is the path. This is the revolution. Detachment is not apathy. It is sacred strength in a storming world. It is the refusal to be swept away. It is the discipline to feel and still choose clarity. It is the devotion to peace, not as an escape, but as your weapon. In a world at war, your nervous system can be a battlefield, or it can be a sanctuary. Choose sanctuary. Choose to hold space instead of noise. Choose to radiate light instead of leak energy. Choose detachment, not as avoidance, but as ascension. Because when you anchor yourself, you lift the world. And that is not apathy. That is love in its highest form. If this stirred something in you, you're not alone. The battlefield within is where real warriors rise. Thank you for watching. Now ask yourself, will you transmute the fire or be consumed by it? Check out our other videos to dive deeper into the art of inner alchemy. Like and subscribe for more powerful insights to sharpen your spirit.